Welcome to the deep dive. We take a focused look at sources and pull out the knowledge and insights that matter most to you.
And today we're diving into Chapter 3, The Process, from Erika Hall's book, Just Enough Research.
Yeah, this actually builds on a great discussion from the UX Research Sutra podcast. They go chapter by chapter through UX research books, which is pretty cool.
It is. So we're kind of picking up that thread on this specific chapter, trying to bring you the real core of Hall's method.
Exactly. So our mission really is to unpack her six-step process for systematic research.
Yeah.
We want to give you a practical way to understand and use these methods. Doesn't matter if you're super technical or just starting out or how big your project is.
Right. The idea is it helps you work smarter, save some brain power when you need answers.
Okay, so let's get into it. This chapter title, The Process.
It really says it all, doesn't it? Hall's whole point is that having a clear method, a system, whether your research is quick or takes weeks, that's the key.
To avoid wasting time and actually get somewhere meaningful.
Exactly. And she lays out these 6 steps, very practical.
So step 1 is define the problem. I thought this was interesting. She compares it to defining design problems.
Yeah, that's a smart comparison.
Right.
In design, you're solving for user needs, maybe business goals.
Right, but in research, the problem is different. It's a lack of information. You don't know something.
Exactly. So the problem statement needs to nail down what you're trying to figure out.
And she's quite specific about the language here, isn't she? Using certain types of verbs.
Oh, absolutely. She really pushes for outcome-oriented verbs. Things like describe, evaluate, identify, as opposed to, vaguer words like understand or explore.
And that's not just being picky about words, is it? It sounds like it has a practical purpose.
It totally does. It's about knowing when you're done. You can tell when you've described something.
But exploring, you could explore forever.
Precisely. She gives some good examples. Like if your topic is working parents planning weekends, instead of just how do they plan, the problem statement becomes, we will describe how parents of school-age children select and plan weekend activities. See, much clearer goal.
Yeah, that clicks. You know what you need to deliver.
Right.
What was the other example? Competitors.
Right. So the question might be, what are their pros and cons compared to us? The problem statement turns into, we will analyze the relative advantages and disadvantages of a set of identified competitors. Sharpens the focus right up.
Okay, got it. And she also says the statement can cover one main question or even a few related ones.
Yeah, the key thing is just clarity. Be crystal clear on what you need to learn right at the start.
Because if you know the what, then the how becomes the next logical step.
Which takes us straight into step 2,
You know?
select the approach.
Right. So that problem statement you just defined starts pointing you towards the kind of research you need.
But, and this is crucial, Hall stresses that the practical stuff, your time, your budget, who you have available, that really shapes the specific methods you end up choosing.
Ah, the real-world constraints. There are always trade-offs.
Always. So if your questions are about users, maybe their behaviors or needs.
You're looking at user research, ethnography maybe. She covers those later, right?
Yeah, chapters 5 and 7, I think. And if you're assessing a design, it's more like evaluative research methods. Again, covered later.
She gives examples like an expert review of a website versus doing full-on ethnography abroad. Big difference in effort.
Huge difference. And you might even mix methods for one question. But she suggests writing a quick description of the study you're planning.
Why is that helpful?
It connects your research question directly to your plan. So back to the parents planning weekends.
Okay.
Your description might be, we'll describe how they plan weekends by doing phone interviews with diverse parents, then compiling the findings. It just solidifies things, makes it real.
Okay, so you know what you need to find out. You have a general how. Now we're at step 3, plan and prepare, the details phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is where you sort out the logistics. And Hall makes a really practical point here.
Yeah.
Assign a point person.
Someone owns the plan, the checklist.
Yeah. Doesn't mean they do everything, but they make sure stuff doesn't fall through the cracks, keeps things organized.
Makes sense. And the initial plan covers, like time, money, roles, finding people, materials.
All that. But she also gives some great advice. Don't aim for perfection right away.
Because research is messy. Things change.
Totally. You're going to encounter surprises. She actually says make friends with the unexpected, which I love.
Huh. That's good. So your plan needs to be flexible.
Right. Maybe you realize your interviews need to be longer or shorter, or maybe early chats reveal you really should look at what competitors are doing, even if you didn't plan to initially.
And you need to think about how those changes affect the bigger project, the timeline, the original goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Consider the trade-offs. Maybe you have a plan B in mind. Hall gives a checklist for the plan essentials: the problem statement, timeline, roles, who you need to recruit and how, incentives, tools, all the basics.
Okay, and within this planning step, she spends a fair bit of time on recruiting.
Oh, yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Recruiting is that whole process.
Yeah.
Finding people, getting them interested, screening them, getting them to actually participate.
It's not automatic. There's no draft, as she says.
Right. And she argues, pretty convincingly, I think, that good recruiting is absolutely vital for qualitative research.
Because you're talking to fewer people, so they have to be the right people.
Exactly. She says you could ask the right people the wrong questions and still learn something, but ask the wrong people. Doesn't matter how good your questions are, it's kind of useless.
Okay, so what makes someone a good participant then?
According to Hall, they need to share the concerns and goals of your actual target users. They embody key traits like age or job. They can talk clearly about their thoughts, and they're okay with whatever tech you're using. She uses a fishing analogy. You need the right bait and the right net to catch the right fish.
Catchy. She admits it can be time-consuming, though, right? Finding people.
Yeah, it can take effort. But she also says getting good at it makes all your research faster and easier down the line. It's a skill worth building.
So how do you find them? Especially online.
Well, the internet's your friend here. If you have a site with users, that's one place. Unless you need people who aren't users yet.
Right.
Otherwise, email lists, posting screeners on Twitter, Craigslist, Facebook, LinkedIn, even local community sites or blogs. She suggests using the term design research so people know what it's about.
And the net in the fishing analogy is the screener, that survey thing.
Exactly. It's a short survey to find people who fit your criteria and weed out those who don't. Hall really emphasizes this. She says, when you talk to someone who's been screened well, you know it immediately. They just get it. They engage.
And we've all probably experienced the opposite, right? The person who just isn't the right fit goes off on tangents.
Yeah. She says you still pay them if you promised, but good screening minimizes that. Online surveys are usually the best way to do that initial filter.
So what goes in the screener? What are you asking?
All references Christine Perfetti here, outlining key questions. First, what behaviors are you looking for? This is critical
Behaviors. Why behaviors?
because they show if your design might actually fit into someone's life. Like, for a cycling app, don't just screen for people who own a bike. Screen for people who actually cycle regularly.
Okay. Makes sense. What else?
Second, what level of tech, know-how, or access do they need? Be realistic. Can they use the tools needed for the study? Like, for a mobile app test, they need to be comfy with their smartphone.
Right, so they're not fighting the phone instead of testing the app.
Exactly. Third is domain knowledge. For a general news app, you just need news readers. But for, say, a specialized app for mechanics,
You absolutely need actual mechanics.
got it. Writing the screener forces you to really think about your users, empathize with them. It also helps filter out professional participants, people just trying to get the incentive. So be a bit vague about the exact test topic in your recruitment ad.
Okay, and basic demographics too. Age, location.
Yeah. Helps avoid bias, get a good mix. She gives this neat example from a museum study. They asked about how often people did various things: movies, hiking, museums.
To gauge museum interest without asking directly.
Exactly. And also just general getting out of the house habits. Smart. But keep screeners short, she warns. People drop off if they're too long.
And for in-person tests, maybe a quick phone call follow-up?
Yeah, good idea. Help screen further, get a feel for communication style. If someone's really abrupt or weird on the phone, maybe not the best fit.
So practice makes perfect with screening, basically.
Pretty much. You get better at writing them, spotting the right people, and online tools make it way easier than it used to be.
All right, so plan done, people recruited, now it's go time. Step 4, collect the data.
Yep, this is where you do the thing. The interviews, the observations, the usability tests, whatever you planned.
And you end up with data. Lots of different kinds. Photos, recordings, notes.
All sorts. And Hall is really emphatic here. Get that data backed up fast. Put it on a shared drive somewhere safe.
She mentions an iPhone in a toilet.
Huh. Yeah, a vivid reminder of what can go wrong. Data lost forever. If you're offline, have a backup drive.
So organization during collection is key for later.
Absolutely. Naming files consistently, like study participant name date, saves headaches. And she suggests taking just a few minutes between sessions.
To do what?
Just check files saved, okay, names are right, and jot down any quick impressions while they're fresh. It helps later during analysis.
Okay, which leads us right into step 5, analyze the data. Now you've got all this stuff, what do you do with it?
Right. The big question, what does it all mean? Hall says it's about gathering everything, looking for meaningful patterns, turning those patterns into observations, and then deriving recommendations from those.
And the same data can be used for different things.
Definitely. Stakeholder interviews might inform business requirements and workflow issues. Usability testing finds bugs and informs personas.
You might even revisit old data if it's still relevant and you have new questions.
Totally possible. But a key thing she pushes for is involving the design team in the analysis itself.
Why is that? More brains are better.
Partly, yeah, more insights likely. But also, when the team analyzes it together, they internalize the findings better. It becomes their understanding, not just a report they read.
So who should be in the room?
People who can contribute constructively and will benefit directly. Probably exclude anyone likely to distract or who'd be better off just seeing the summary. Definitely include anyone who helped collect the data. Ideally, the whole core team.
And it's supposed to be fun, a
Yeah.
group activity.
Yeah, she frames it that way. Reviewing notes, spotting patterns, turning them into insights together can take half a day, maybe a few days. Give people access to notes beforehand so they can prep.
Is there a structure she suggests for these sessions?
Yes, a pretty clear one. Start by recapping goals and process. Describe the participants in context. Outline data gathering methods and analysis approach. Then dive in. Pull out quotes, observations. Group them into themes.
Like, people rely on pen and paper, or parent opinions matter most.
Exactly. Then summarize the findings, patterns, insights, design implications. And finally, document it all so you can share it.
Are there ground rules for these sessions to keep them on track?
Essential ones. Focus only on understanding users. Stick to the structure, no jumping ahead to patterns too soon. Clearly, separate observation from interpretation. And big one, no proposing solutions yet. Just insights and principles.
Stick to the problem space. What about materials? Whiteboards, sticky notes?
The classics. Big room whiteboard space, lots of stickies, pens, camera to capture the boards, standard analysis toolkit.
How do you group the observations?
Flexibly.
Yeah.
Maybe by user type or task. But Hall says let the patterns emerge, don't force it. Set time limits, maybe vote if needed. Look for goals, priorities, tasks, motivations, barriers, habits, tools, environment, all that good stuff.
What about outliers, people who don't quite fit the profile?
Yeah, the non-museum goer example. Your note them might help refine future recruiting, but you generally set their data aside for the main analysis. Don't design for the outliers.
Got it. Okay, analysis done. Which brings us to the last step. Step 6. Report the results.
Right. The output is usually a summary report, maybe some models like personas. She talks more about those later.
And how you report depends on who needs to see it, how decisions get made?
Exactly. Small team, maybe something informal works. Need to sway executives.
Yeah.
Probably needs to be more formal, polished.
But she also makes the point that a big report no one reads isn't very useful.
Not at all. Sometimes a simple persona sketch or just a photo of the whiteboard stickies put up where people see it is way more effective.
But you should always write something up, a summary.
Always, even if it's brief. Goals, methods, insights, recommendations. Don't skip documenting. Even if you're moving fast, it's valuable later.
Right. And then she finishes the chapter with, and repeat.
Yeah, that crucial reminder. Research isn't usually a one-off. Iterative research, doing it in cycles, is key for building things that work for real people. Once you start doing it, designing without it feels wrong.
So wrapping this up for you listening, Erika Hall's 6 steps give you this really practical, systematic way to get insights.
Yeah, this deep dive into just chapter 3 gives you a really solid foundation. You can use this process in lots of different situations, whatever your skill level.
So maybe take a moment, think about how you could apply these steps, maybe for work or just something you're curious about personally. How could you find information more systematically?
And hey, if this got you interested, definitely check out the whole book, Just Enough Research, or maybe the UX Research Sutra podcast for more on these topics.
Because ultimately, having that systematic approach like Hall lays out, it's just incredibly powerful for, unlocking understanding. So we hope you'll go out and do your own deep dives into the things that matter to you.